If you can handle nuance, tolerate criticism of your own team, and if you're cursed with the ability to hold multiple perspectives, keep watching. If you need villains and heroes, you can click away. Because this video is for people who are sick of complaints without solutions. Here's something I suspect a lot of people think but they don't say. Extreme red pillars and modern feminists are the same people with different private parts. Different aesthetics, same wounds, same psychology. And I'm deliberately using the term extreme red pill and modern feminism because I believe both movements started out with legitimate pain and reasonable concerns. There were real injustices, real conversations needed to be had, and there were real people who felt unseen and unheard. But the problem is that those conversations turned into complaints with no solutions, and those complaints turned into people's entire personalities. The pursuit of healing quietly turned into the pursuit of power, resentment, and control. What began with noble intentions has mutated into something deeply unhealthy. Let's look at the similarities, shall we? Both sides have deep wounds from the opposite sex and choose to continue operating from those wounds. Both sides fixate on the worst possible examples of the other side, refuse to give credit when someone of the opposite sex shows integrity. They can't tolerate legitimate critique of their own team. They're hyper vigilant, constantly scanning for threat and offense, and assume bad intent when there is none. And maybe the biggest one of all, both sides are willfully blind to the fact that there are men and women out there who choose to live with integrity. But because they haven't found those people or refuse to become the kind of person who attracts them, they decide everyone's the same because that's easier than doing inner work. What I see is a lot of unresolved pain posing as certainty. And here's the ironic part. For every declarative statement one side has, there's a perfect mirror on the other side. For example, simp and pick-me are both insults thrown at anyone who steps outside of the tribe's approved behavior. These terms have lost their meaning. They're social punishments meant to discourage growth because when someone in the same group grows, it exposes those who refuse to. Moving along, women only want men for their money. Men only want women for their bodies. A woman will leave you if you lose your money. A man will leave you once he acquires decent money. And furthermore, for every man who's angry about a woman who has healthy standards, there's a woman who's equally angry about a man having healthy standards. And I suspect it's because deep down they know they're lacking certain quality characteristics, and instead of developing them, they attack the standard itself. People are so blinded by their triggers that they can't distinguish between healthy standards and unreasonable ones. When healthy standards trigger you, it's often because it exposes an area where you refuse to grow. And here's the confusing part. Both sides are right. There are awful men out there, and there are awful women out there. But also, both sides are insufferably whiny. You complain endlessly online, trauma bond in comment sections, and moralize your pain. But where are your positive qualities? Are you compassionate, accountable, and emotionally regulated? Or do you always find a way to excuse bad behavior when it comes from your side? A classic example is when women are abused, men are like,
"Oh, she could have just left."
And when a man is abused, women are like,
"Oh, he was probably the real abuser behind closed doors."
You're not analyzing reality, you're just defending your tribe. But it's as simple as this. Some people suck, and some of them are men, some of them are women. When ideology matters more than truth, everyone suffers. How many of you see a happy couple and immediately think, she'd leave him for someone with more money, or he'll leave her for someone younger? From a biological standpoint, these thoughts are not completely made up. Evolutionary psychology has shown that men and women have different dating preferences. David M. Buss's research, for example, found that men generally put more emphasis on youth and physical appearance, and women generally place more emphasis on resources and stability. But here's the missing piece in that dismal truth. We are not slaves to our biology. We have consciousness, moral agency, and we can choose integrity over impulse. Not everyone gives in to biologically wired temptations, and assuming they do says more about your wounds than reality. That level of cynicism is not wisdom, it's poison, and just bad vibes all around. And if that's all you choose to see, it's all you'll ever experience. There's a saying where attention goes, energy flows. You bond with what you consistently focus on, and that's not just with what you love, but it's with what you hate. So basically, you're emotionally and neurologically bonded with the worst examples of the opposite sex. And even if you truly believe that most people are awful, you have the free will to focus on those who aren't. Your worldview actively shapes your reality. At the heart of this gender war is fear. Everyone's just so scared and fiercely protecting themselves, and I get it. But self-preservation has turned into contempt and bitterness with no solutions. You can keep whining, or you can choose self-improvement. You can keep scanning for threats, or you can retrain your nervous system to recognize safety. I used to not believe this, but you do become what you focus on, and your reality is a mirror of what's in your own mind. Healing isn't denial, it's just choosing not to live in survival mode forever. If you're genuinely happy living this way, no one's forcing you to change. But I know a lot of you out there deep down do want a healthy relationship. And if you do, I challenge you to catch your thoughts, pause before blaming, and you should challenge yourself to push your ego aside long enough to admit that maybe you have toxic traits that distort how you see people. Healthy relationships are not perfect, and they're even painful at times. But declaring that no good men or women exist just because it's easier than facing yourself is not going to help anybody. And the thing is, letting go of bitterness means letting go of an identity that you have become attached to, and that's very scary for most people. But freedom, peace, and love are on the other side of that fear. You don't have to keep fighting a war that's poisoning you. You can choose clarity and accountability. And you can choose hope without becoming naive. You almost always attract your energetic match, so instead of complaining, challenge yourself to catch somebody of the opposite sex showing integrity. If you do that long enough, you'll realize that your reality will start changing for the better, and that's where strength and hope lives. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you, and I believe in you. Remember, own your choices, shape your future, and stay wise.